One of the most significant things that has helped us humans evolve and take over the world has been our ability to tell stories and connect to them. Yuval Noah Harari, in his book Sapiens, refers to this period as the cognitive revolution, which was a major turning point in human history. To this day, the reason for it remains unclear, but humans developed the ability to think, imagine, and communicate abstract and complex ideas 70,000 years ago. And from there on, we humans went on to develop stories and begin storytelling. Stories to this day are an important part of our lives, be it real or fictional or through any medium. They still play as much of an important role as they played 70,000 years ago in shaping our minds. Stories have the ability to inspire us, move us, break us, blow our minds apart, and most importantly, stories have the ability to transform us as individuals. It won't be wrong if I say great stories play a major role in shaping great minds, and thereby these great minds then shape the future we will eventually live in. Writers who have written stories which have the ability to transform an individual and awaken something deep inside us that we never knew existed. Such writers are truly the real visionary, shaping the future, though with not that intent. Such writers show us the possibility of things we perceive as impossible, and sometimes things we don't even perceive. The kind of stories we conceive also plays a major role in influencing how we view the world, build relationships, and make sense of our lives and our experiences. Great stories encourage societal reflection, cumulatively evolving generations and their way of thinking. Stories speak to the lost and left out, because ultimately all it takes for an individual to achieve their dreams is someone telling them that it can be achieved, that there's a possibility where they can go past the set limits, setting new standards, pushing the human race and human thought forward. Stories shape cultures. Take Ramayana and Mahabharata for example, which shapes our understanding of morality, relationships, respect, and so much more. Stories are fundamental to human evolution and the progress of ideas. They carry forward the lessons of the past, highlights the challenges of the present, and offers a vision for the future. One such fascinating example showing the sheer power of stories comes from an ancient Greek poet, whose poem led to a fall of sequences and inspirations that changed the course of history forever. Iliad, written by Homer with one of its prominent characters, Achilles, went on to inspire one of the greatest rulers the planet has ever seen, Alexander the Great. Alexander was so impressed by Achilles that he wished to be like him and achieve his level of greatness given in the story. Each night he slept keeping a copy of the book under his pillow. He adored the character of Achilles. There are times in our lives where we struggle to box our aspirations, where we need some sort of reference regarding what we want and how we want to be. We surely may know what we don't want, but struggle to concretize the kind of person we want to be. For Alexander, Achilles was his goals, aspirations, ambitions, and personality all personified. It was as close as anything could get to what he wanted to be. He didn't want to become like his father, King Philip, nor like any other great king of his time, but a mythological character named Achilles. Alexander carried a copy of the Iliad wherever he went during his campaigns. He mimicked the actions described in the book. Alexander even visited his grave and paid homage by performing rituals. He had a strong sense of desire to go past and live up to his legacy, and this desire fueled him to go through any kind of struggle to match the legacy of his idol. All he wanted was his name be told in the same breath as that of Achilles. A point came in Alexander's global campaign where his soldiers had given up and wanted to go back to their homes, but Alexander even then had a lot left in him as he chose to push forward. The shadow of Achilles' legacy was always in the back of his mind, motivating him to achieve more. Like Achilles, Alexander too chose a short glorious life rather than a long and peaceful one. Alexander died at the mere age of 32. Today, Alexander goes on to live in our books forever. His achievements were nothing short of any fictitious story that went on to inspire many kings down the line, showing the possibility of achieving something that till Alexander was inconceivable. Like Achilles, Alexander's life is a story that inspired many. All they wanted was their name be told with that of Alexander the Great. One of them being Julius Caesar, who like Alexander has a great legacy to his name. One of the famous stories of Julius Caesar is when he visited a temple and came across a statue of Alexander the Great. Upon seeing the statue, Caesar supposedly shed a few tears. When asked the reason for his tears, he replied, "Do you not think it is a matter for sorrow that while Alexander at my age was already king of so many peoples, I have as yet achieved no brilliant success?" Caesar was 31 then, the age when a great ruler had left the world, another was still in the making. Who knew at this point that they were seeing two great rulers of all time? Caesar's true rise as a military commander began in 58 BC, when he became the proconsul of Gaul. This gave him full command of the Roman legions. From there, he led many successful campaigns that expanded Roman territory and solidified his reputation as a military genius. Caesar's global conquest was inspired by that of Alexander. He was impressed with Alexander taking the Greek culture to the places he conquered, which led to the Hellenistic period. He thought of doing the same with Roman culture. He viewed himself, like Alexander, as a man of destiny. Many of Caesar's actions were modeled and influenced by Alexander. Julius Caesar claimed to have had a direct connection with Jupiter, one of the gods in Roman mythology, which helped him in his rise to power publicly. Jupiter represented the pinnacle of power and authority in Roman mythology. Allowing himself to align with Jupiter led Caesar to frame his own ambition. Caesar colored his face red to show that he connected with the divine, and the statesmen and the civilians believed it because they connected to the story he told. Sometimes who tells the story is more important than what the story is. In 44 BC, after several successful conquests, Caesar was declared the dictator for life of the Roman Empire. One of Caesar's major qualities that brought him to this stage was his ability to connect to the masses with stories. Unfortunately, his rise to power and the title dictator for life alarmed many. Julius Caesar was assassinated by his own men, his own best friend Brutus along with several other ministers, who stabbed Caesar to death at the age of 55. Like Alexander, Caesar's legacy continued to inspire many Roman emperors and countless kings to follow, along with Shakespeare, who immortalized his story for the modern world. After Julius Caesar, another great ruler followed, Napoleon Bonaparte, who was inspired by both Alexander's and Julius Caesar's life. Napoleon was at the stage of history where he knew, seeing the life stories of Alexander and Julius Caesar, that anything is possible. One of the quotes attributed to Napoleon: "Impossible is a word in the dictionary of fools." Napoleon studied Julius Caesar's campaign in Gaul, particularly his strategies and tactics. Napoleon's own rise resulted in his self-declaration as the Emperor of France, paralleling Caesar's rise to supreme power in Rome. It's amazing how Alexander tried living or emulating the legacy of Achilles, who is a fictional character in Homer's Iliad. Then came Julius Caesar, who tried emulating the legacy of Alexander the Great. Then Napoleon tried to emulate Julius Caesar in several ways. But what surprised me the most is each one of them felt that they were unsuccessful in coming at power or beating their idol. They believed that they lacked in numerous areas compared to their idols. This shows the never-dying human spirit of wanting more. It was the stories written over a lifetime that inspired other lives, but this fall of events did not start with Alexander, but with Homer, who thought of someone like Achilles, which inspired Alexander, leading to a whole progression from Caesar to Napoleon, and maybe thousands of kings who ruled the world. It's fascinating how a story and character developing in the mind of a writer, when brought on paper, went on to change the future of mankind forever. In today's world, the problem is we no longer consider the possibility of great fictional characters or great achievers in real life as competitors or someone we wish to be like. Either they are given the status of godly, demigods, or we degrade ourselves into something we are inherently incapable of. The character of Achilles was created keeping man in mind. To make things happen, as the writer thought in Iliad, he needed to make someone like Achilles. Alexander resonated with the world Homer made in the Iliad and thought of himself as the Achilles of the existing world. Just thinking of himself as Achilles motivated him to conquer the known world, and he did. You never know what would be that one character part of a story resonating with your world, real or fictional, who shows you the possibility of what can be achieved with similar circumstances. Like what Achilles did to Alexander and Alexander did to Caesar. You never know the potential that's hidden within you and what's that story, that character, that question, that ambition that will make you unlock the hidden potential, opening a totally new world. Stories influence life and life influences stories. The sad part about this is, in the modern world, such stories are present in abundance. Most people just abandon the possibility just by seeing the monstrosity of the task or dream they have. We tend to give tags for someone who has achieved extraordinary feats in their lives as aliens, superhumans, or jump to conclusions saying such individuals are born once 1,000 years, or straight up assign the success to luck as if we are nothing but walking dead meat. I think every individual can do the impossible and extraordinary. It's just that we choose to be ordinary. Greatness is a decision we make. Some choose it, while most deny it being a possibility. Alexander, Caesar, and Napoleon to this day inspire boxers, athletes, entrepreneurs, and anyone who feels they are in the battlefield of their life. The ripples of our actions will echo throughout time and after our passing. The actions taken by one will influence and continue to impact the future for now and ever. Right now, while you watch this video, somewhere in the corner of a room, someone is writing a story, a poem, a script, shooting a video, making a movie, starting a company, or thinking of something that will go on to change the world forever. All I want to ask you is, who's your Achilles?